In a previous video, I ran through 10 great, lesser-known Atari 8-bit computer games, perfect to play on the 400 Mini, headed our way in just a few weeks. At the end of that piece, I asked you to let me know what other titles are not to be missed, and you came through! You suggested dozens of games I was familiar with that just didn't make my list, but also introduced me to quite a few I'd never even heard of. So in this video, I'm going to run down 10 Atari 8-bit computer games recommended by you, our viewers, that I'd never played before. That's right after this. This video supported in part by...
Playing VR, I tend to sweat. It gives me an edge. So King of Nerds happens to give me an edge too. Let King of Nerds give you the edge. Bye, King of Nerds.
Hey there, welcome back to GenXGrownUp. I'm John, and I am a GenXGrownUp. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. As we established in my last entry, the Atari 8-bit computer library is loaded with memorable games that, if you weren't a computer user in the mid-'80s, you've likely never seen or played. Case in point, I was a rabid Atari computer user throughout the 80s, but I'm still discovering new games thanks to suggestions from GenXGrownUp viewers. Again, I didn't select any arcade ports or popular games that made their way to future sequels and consoles, and instead will focus on titles that are relatively unique to the Atari 8-bit computer and its contemporaries. In each case, I had never played the game before preparing for the video, so I read the manual when it was available and spent about 30 minutes playing in order to get a feel for the game so I could share it with you here. So here we go, in no particular order, starting with a recommendation from viewer Just Wasted 3 Hours here, Activision's Master of the Lamps. Master of the Lamps casts you as a young prince who is seeking to claim his kingdom's throne by banishing 3 genies back into their lamps. Each level consists of 2 parts. In the flight sim levels, you fly your magic carpet through a course of diamond-shaped gates, but if you miss one, it's back to the start. Once you complete a flight level, you play a Simon-like game where the genie plays a series of tones, and then you must repeat the sequence on the color-coded gongs before each note reaches the ground. Succeed and you'll win a piece of the lamp. 7 pieces complete a lamp and banish the genie. I might have seen this back in the 80s, but I certainly never played it long enough to understand what I was supposed to do. The visuals and music are pretty impressive, and the full throne quest spans 3 lamps, so 21 circuits of magic carpet and gong levels. That ought to keep me busy for a while. The next one was recommended by viewer Peebo Vision, and it's Captain Beeble from In-Home Software. The clunky character-based graphic design and limited color palette makes me think this was ported from the Apple II. I don't know that, it's just a feeling. The goal is to navigate Captain Beeble through various underground caverns, avoiding enemies and obstacles to retrieve the crystal at the end of a level, and then bring it all the way back to the CPU at the start of the level. The audiovisual design is probably not going to be what brings you back, but instead the variety of level design. More and increasingly challenging obstacles are introduced as you progress, and each level is timed, so it's not enough to be good, you've also got to be fast. Captain Beeble didn't grab me right away, but it has its charms and just might grow on you. The next viewer recommendation is Robbo, suggested by Vlad Alexev. Puzzle game Robbo was released in 1989, the same year as Chip's Challenge on the Lynx, and it's almost the same game. In Robbo, you play the titular robot, and in each level your goal is to gather all the bolts to fix your spaceship, then reach the spaceship to progress on to the next level. In addition to figuring out the puzzle, you must also avoid getting killed by roaming enemies, laser turrets, or bombs, and push movable crates to clear the path without boxing yourself in. Robbo can shoot his own laser, but only after finding and picking up ammo hidden somewhere in the level. While not the only level-based action puzzle game out there, Robbo certainly has a bit more polish than most, and I can see why Vlad nominated it. Now we move on from action puzzler to strategic simulation with Submarine Commander, recommended by viewer Steve M. In the time I spent with Submarine Commander, I didn't achieve much, but I will vouch for its ability to pull you in with realistic, methodical pacing. You score points for sinking ships with your sub, but this is no button masher. This is a tense game of cat and mouse as you stalk the seas for your next victim. You'll use keyboard buttons to switch between the map, sonar, or periscope view, depending on which you need, based on position and depth, as well as number keys for speed and other keys for emergency diving or surfacing. Submarine Commander understands that a computer game need not be an arcade game, and in fact is the perfect platform for a more thoughtful, slower-paced simulation that gives you control of more than just a fire button. And though I didn't get very far, I can see myself going back to this one again. Speaking of button mashers, allow me to introduce you to Bandits, suggested by viewer Mike S. Bandits is a bit of a combo of fixed shooters like Galaxian with a bit of Puyan or Donkey Kong 3 thrown in for flavor. Yeah, you move your spaceship left and right, blasting enemies and dodging bullets, but the overarching goal is to prevent the enemies from stealing any fruit from the planet on the right. If they grab fruit, your last ditch is to destroy them before they get back to their mothership. And if you lose all 5 fruit, the game ends regardless of how many ships you have in reserve. Plus, it's not just wave after wave of the same old thing. At least 6 different enemies, all with unique behaviors and attacks, will keep you on your toes. And don't forget, like I kept doing, that you have a shield that can be activated by pushing forward on the stick. It'll save you from a tight spot if only you remember to deploy it. Bandits is a really nice shooter with enough variety to keep things from feeling repetitive, so if you enjoy this kind of shooter, definitely put it on your list. Already some great recommendations from our viewers, and I'm not done yet. Before I move on though, I will remind you that our merch store has loads of nerdy designs that you can get on t-shirts or magnets or stickers or whatever. No matter what you're into, we likely have it, from games and computers to TV and movies to sports and more. Next time you're in the market, I hope you'll head over to genxgrownup.com/merch and give it a browse. And know that every item purchased supports future videos just like this one. Alright, moving along to our next viewer-suggested game, Everett puts forth Dimension X. No surprise here that this is a Synapse release. Dimension X might best be described as a mashup of Battlezone and Star Raiders played on a ball blazer grid with Star Wars trench runs thrown in between the levels. How's that for a combo? Regillian aliens have invaded Dimension X and are looking to take over your capital city. You're a lone pilot tasked with defeating the Regillians, armed only with your fighter, your wits, and some helpful scanners and radar displays. Blast all the aliens in a given sector, then aim your ship for the next sector, and your boosters will take you into the tunnel connecting them. That's where you trench run through the tunnel, dodging walls blocking your way. By the way, who built all those walls across the tunnel? Seems like a bad idea. Well, like Star Raiders, you'll roam the map defeating bad guys and occasionally heading over to the fuel depot for much needed energy and repairs before heading back out. I don't know how I missed this one back in the day, but like most Synapse games, Dimension X brings its A game to your Atari computer and is well worth a try. Staying with the Synapse theme is a game recommended by Brandon B, and it's Drelbs. Drelbs wins my prize for most unnecessarily convoluted backstory for an action puzzler. You're a Drelb, dropped onto the atomic flip grid in the center of the Drelbish kingdom. Close off as many squares as you can by rotating the flip walls and dodging the Trollabors, that little square angry face. Occasionally there are heart or diamond pickups, and keep an eye on completed boxes. Sometimes an evil Trollabor will appear and bust it back open, or maybe a lady will show up and you can steal a kiss. That's from the manual. Or if you see Drelbs in a box, try to jump in for a bonus round. There are 8 rounds to complete, but I was only able to finish the first one during my time with Drelbs. However, I can assure you I'll be going back to the Drelbian Kingdom for another try before long. Our next viewer-suggested game is Broderbund's Stealth, put forward by Lurker. And while I'm giving out prizes, Stealth gets my slickest, most likely to be an 80s arcade machine ribbon. Wow, Stealth! Yeah, at face value, this might look like another behind-the-jet shoot-'em-up. And that's here, but that's not the end of what Stealth has to offer. Your goal each level is to reach the dark tower looming in the distance and blow it up. Along the way, you'll encounter enemy fighters, turrets, heat-seeking missiles, and tanks, all gunning for you. But the twist is the resource management component. You see, you have access to nearly infinite energy if you keep your eye out for the yellow positive energy fields. Each one you fly over will reinforce your shields, but if you've got an itchy trigger finger, you can just as easily destroy those fields accidentally. So you need to carefully pinpoint your targets rather than just mindlessly strafe. You'll progress through 5 successively more difficult levels, and if you destroy all 5 towers, you win. I, however, did not destroy all 5 towers. My record is just 1 for now, so Stealth will most certainly be in my replay rotation. Another Broderbund title, this time recommended by Carrie Holzman, and it's Drol. In Drol, a witch doctor has placed a curse on a little girl, her brother, and their jetpack-wearing pet lizard, transporting them into a dream world and the ruins of a lost civilization. Using the full-screen Defender-esque radar, it's your job to navigate our robot hero, Drol, through the ruins, defeating enemies and rescuing the hapless trio. Each screen has 4 floors, and you can only change floors by sliding up or down through the little doors between them. So keep an eye on the radar and don't get stuck on the wrong floor when the target you're looking for is above or below. Drol is a fairly straightforward action game, but what seems to make it stand out is its tongue-in-cheek character design. Rather than just aliens and monsters, Drol's array of enemies include hopping scorpions, seahorses, vacuum cleaners, witch doctors, and magnets. And for a tip I learned the hard way, Drol takes about a second to turn around 180 degrees, so factor that in and plan your attacks accordingly. And finally, a game suggested by Stefan S., it's Cavelord. The first thing you'll likely spot when you fire up Cavelord is that our hero is riding a flying ostrich and carrying a lance. But if you think that means joust, you'd be mistaken. Cavelord actually has more in common with Atari's Adventure, but with an action angle. At the outset of each level, you're tasked by the king to find his crown and return it to him. The pieces of the crown are scattered around this volatile cave system, teeming with dangerous lightning strikes, active volcanoes, and flying enemies, all hell-bent on you not reclaiming that crown. Unlike Joust, there's no flapping to maintain height or speed, but instead the joystick lets you fly freely around the caverns, and the fire button is your gun or whatever you shoot from the back of a flying ostrich. Keep an eye out for keys and crystals that unlock new sections of the map, and health, gold, and crown pieces to progress your journey. Aside from a slight nitpick that it's very easy for your bird to get hung up on the edges of cave walls, Cavelord is representative of the larger and more involved games made possible by home computers that you rarely saw in home consoles of the time. Thank you to all of you who sent me your favorites, and I'm sorry I couldn't include them all. It was pretty tough to pick just 10 viewer recommendations, but that's just indicative of just how deeply stacked that Atari 8-bit computer library is. And I'm sure there are plenty more. Do tell me what you think of this set down in the comments, and keep those suggestions coming. As the 400 Mini approaches and is released, I plan to have more videos highlighting the versatility of the Atari 8-bit platform. In the meantime, I'll put links here and here over my shoulders to other Atari 8-bit videos I've done. I certainly hope you found something to enjoy in this video, and I cannot wait to talk to you again next time. Bye-bye.